We move on from an old school retro game to something a bit more recent. Maximo Ghosts of Glory is this week's focus point. This is an interesting game, considering it's oftentimes considered to be the sequel to old Ghosts and Goblins games, and it's easy to see why. I mean, where else would you find your hero running around killing zombies in his boxers? You play as Maximo, who happens not to be simply a warrior, but also the king of his area. He comes home from some journey and finds one of his sorcerers, Achilles, has taken his queen Sophia for his own. Maximo is killed by Achilles, and death appears. A bit pissed that Achilles is using the souls of the dead to power his evil abilities. Maximo is sent back to the world of living to find a few goddesses to empower Maximo and help him overcome Achilles. After the intro cutscene, you're thrust right into the first stage. It is, of course, a graveyard. As you run around, the environment will shift around, and the undead will pop out of the ground. Maximo is armed with a sword and shield. Most enemies will take a few hits before dying. Perhaps I should talk about the combat first, since it's one of the biggest flaws with the game. Yes, you heard right. The combat is flawed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. As I just said a few minutes ago, Maximo has a sword and shield equipped. He can block by pressing R1, but if an enemy makes contact with the shield, it loses durability points. It starts off with, I believe, 15 points. It can be upgraded by purchasing better shields. If the shield's durability goes to 0, it breaks, and a new one must be found in order to block again. One ability lets you throw the shield as well, and this will damage it too. It's best to keep an eye on its durability, because you do not want to be running around the game without a shield. But what I really want to talk about was the sword attacks. By default, Maximo has 3 separate attacks. One is a horizontal slash, one is an overhead swipe, and one is a jumping downward thrust. That's about it. The jumping attack must be used to activate the checkpoints that are scattered around the map, and also to destroy the objects that are holding the fairies, which I'll talk about later. The other 2 attacks do the same amount of damage. The problem is that Maximo swings his sword slowly, and by the time he's able to wind up for another attack, the enemy may have already shown their claws to the hero. If you miss, it's even worse. The enemies just attack quicker than Maximo. Sure, there are a few abilities that help to alleviate this, like the double horizontal slash or a diving forward attack, but it doesn't always help. Plus, if you get your attack blocked, there's an even longer stun time, so it's almost guaranteed that you'll take damage. If you can't tell with the combat alone, the game is very difficult, but there are a few things that make it a bit less of a maddening experience. For one, unlike the original Ghosts and Goblins games, Maximo's armor can take up more than 1 hit. You actually have a health meter consisting of several segments of 5 points each. Once a segment loses all of its points, it disappears and can only be regained by finding a set of armor. By default, a maximum of 3 segments can be carried, although an ability can be earned that ups that to 4. If there's only 1 segment remaining, Maximo loses all of his armor and is forced to run around in his skivvies. 2 segments show a breastplate, and 3 equips a helmet. With 4, no extra armor pieces are obtained. There are potions you can find that increase the health, but they don't carry over to extra segments. Also, if you pick up armor while you have the maximum amount of segments, you'll get a few seconds of invulnerability. If you're good at keeping your health, this could be a huge advantage. I suppose I should talk about the abilities that you can find throughout the levels. When killing the undead, you may find an icon thrown from their body. These are special abilities that help enhance Maximo's power. They can range from special attack modifications to shield powers or even health power-ups, like the 4th armor slot I've mentioned, or even a power-up that allows Maximo to simply touch enemies that kill them when he's invulnerable. You can grab as many of these abilities as you want, although some will override other powers. For example, you can't have your shield wield both the electrified ability and the coin grab ability. It's going to be either one or the other. Unlike some other games though, if you accidentally grab one of these skills, the previous one cannot be grabbed again unless you find it out in the world. It doesn't just pop out of Maximo so you can check it out, like a lot of the newer Castlevania games. It sucks, because there were several times I accidentally lost an ability that I really wanted because I was too close to an enemy when killing it, and the power-up flew right into the hero. Damn. Also, if you look at the ability bar, you'll see that some of them are a bit bolder than others. These are considered your lock slots. When you die, which you will, any ability that isn't in a lock slot is lost. So you want to make sure that you put your most used skills in the lock slots. Weapons can also be given an elemental status for a limited time. These range from fire, ice, holy, and some sort of darkness-like element. Every enemy can be one-hit killed by a certain element, and with certain abilities you can actually throw a projectile, although that uses up more weapon energy than just connecting with a standard strike. These elements are going to be wanted, regardless on which one you found. Thankfully, when you run out of elemental weapon energy, your sword doesn't break, it only loses its extra power. Finally, there are small cage-like objects that house blue fairies. Every world has a different object for this, but you can tell what it is by looking for the blue sparkling effects. Attacking the object with its standard swing will partially break it, and a few fairies will fly out. If you perform the jumping downward thrust, it will completely destroy the object, and 5 fairies will pop out and scatter. By collecting 50 fairies, the next cage you break will wield a revive coin, which is given to Death to bribe him to allow you to continue. You need to be careful though. If you use too many continues, Death will start increasing the amount of coins required to proceed on. Don't fret though, because if you don't want to continue, you can just reload a previous save. But with that comes another problem. See, there's coins that are in each stage and dropped by enemies. Most of the times, you're going to be using these coins to buy various objects from the terminals in each stage. These range from just fancier boxers that are just cosmetic, to more durable shields to the more valuable extra lives and armor. These are expensive on their own, but there's another thing you need to buy. Saves. Yep. See, after every level, you're thrown into that world's hub. It's a circular area that has the boss tower in the center of it. Other than the first level of that world, each stage can be conquered in any order. But in order to save, you need to enter the hub and find the save pool. By using it, you can spend 100 coins to save or travel between worlds. It's very pricey just to save your game, and it forces you to weigh the options of saving after every level or after every couple levels. It really depends on how confident you are in completing them. I can see paying for a save, but it really shouldn't be that much, considering that you need to buy many other power-ups that will keep Maximo out of hell. At least if you get really good on a stage, you can re-enter them to collect the coins again. So what about the enemies that you encounter? Well, for the most part, there are skeletons and zombies, but each world has special enemies that are strictly for that area. In the ice area, pirates threaten you with daggers protruding out of their bodies, preventing you from jumping on them unless you're laying on their stomach. In the lava area, skeletons will throw bombs, and the only way to kill them without taking damage is to throw the shield at them or crouch and slash. To be honest, I forgot that for a while it was possible to crouch, because it's almost never really needed other than the boss fight and those enemies. There are also some plants that will attack you, and a mage that pops out of a treasure chest. If you can kill it without it striking you, it'll drop an extra life. If the mage's wand does strike you though, well, you'll see a part of Maximo that's kind of funny. That brings me to the visuals. They are fairly cartoonish, but they do look great, especially since this was an earlier release on the PS2. Everything looks nice with some great detail. Nothing really looks out of place or broken. However, while I'm on the subject of this, let me just say that the camera cannot be rotated. The right analog stick is not used at all, so other than navigating Maximo around, you cannot move around the camera to see the environment easier. Because of this, some of the jumps that you're required to make are more of a hassle than they need to be. Finally, let's talk about the bosses. There are only 5 worlds, and each houses a boss in the center of the hub level. By entering this, you'll have to fight a boss, which contains a health meter. Most bosses are defeated once their patterns are figured out. There is a final boss immediately after fighting Achilles, but I won't spoil it for you, because you probably won't have seen it coming. I will say that the ending does set up for the sequel, which I may get to eventually. Anyway, after defeating the boss of each area, you'll free a princess or goddess or whoever she's supposed to be, and she'll give you 3 options. She will allow you to do a free save, refill your armor, or give you a kiss. These kisses are considered abilities, and if not on a lock spot, will be lost upon death. The only thing the kisses do is unlock the gallery if you complete the game with all the kisses in your perk list. To me, it's not worth it, although I've completed it before. I started with the kisses in the playthrough for this review, but said screw it, it's not worth it, and went for more ease of completion. That's all I got from Maximo Ghosts and Glory. It is a very fun, yet challenging game, that really borrows and upgrades a lot of things from its source game. Hell, even the music in the graveyard stages is a remixed version of Ghosts and Goblins. If you like a fun, action-oriented game that likes to kick your ass and laugh at you a bit, I'd recommend it. Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper, facebook.com/ReapersReviews. Happy fragging.